Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be focusing on the Egyptian national mega project that is aiming to develop rural areas here in Egypt. The project is within the framework of the Decent Life initiative that was initiated by President Abdel al-Sisi. Now, this project aims to develop 4,300 villages across all of the governorates here in Egypt within 3 years. It is allocating, the country is allocating £515 billion to achieve such a target. Now, with a very speedy target of achieving and developing 375 villages by the end of this year, 2021. Now, we're going to be focusing on all the aspects of this national mega project that will be undertaken by the Egyptian government here. But before we start doing that, let's check out some of the main stories making the news today. And we'll start off with President Abdel al-Sisi, who met today with the Presidential Advisor for Urban Planning, General Amir Said Ahmed, and head of the Suez Canal Engineering Authority, General Ihab al-Far, on Tuesday. Presidential Advisor Bassam Radi said the meeting probed the reconstruction of a number of projects by the authority around the state, especially the new administrative capital and Al Galala project. The meeting also reviewed the executive status for a number of national projects, including the comprehensive international cargoes plant in the north intersection of the Suez Ring Road near the Cairo International Airport. Also, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has met with the Jordanian King Abdullah II in the Jordanian capital Amman on Tuesday for talks to cover bilateral ties and issues on the agenda of the 29th round of the joint Egyptian-Jordanian High Committee. Earlier on Tuesday, Madbouli held talks with his Jordanian counterpart, Bishr al-Khaswana, followed by an expanded meeting bringing together members of the Egyptian and Jordanian delegations. At a joint press conference with Al-Khaswana, Premier Madbouli hailed the strong and deep ties that bind the two nations, which are reflected on their continuous consultations during the current unprecedented stage witnessed in the whole world due to the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, which imposed many challenges for all countries. He stressed on the significance of holding the Joint High Committee and activating all accords being agreed upon, asserting that Egypt and Jordan are always keen to hold such committees and activate all projects and memos of understandings signed on the sidelines of such meetings. The 29th round of the committee, whose main session is headed by the two premiers, tackle a number of files of mutual concern, including bilateral cooperation, expanding trade exchange, and facilitating the market distribution of goods. Cooperation in the fields of housing, electricity and water resources also top the agenda of the meeting. The committee meetings will witness the signing of a number of cooperation deals between the two sides. These were the main stories making the news today, but now we'll turn our attention to our topic in hand for tonight, and we'll check out this report regarding Egypt undergoing the national mega project to develop rural areas across all the governorates. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
President Abdel al-Sisi announced a national project to develop Egypt's rural areas, which will take 3 years to conclude and serve up to 1,500 of rural villages around the country. President al-Sisi said the state needs to mobilize all its energy, not just civil society and the government, but the people as well, so that these villages emerge in a completely new light. The president promised that the Egyptian people would see the Egyptian countryside differently after just 3 years. According to President Sisi, the project will target developing the roads, including a network of roads that will connect all villages, improving sanitation, drinking water, and electricity, amongst other services. The project will see the enhancement of government facilities within villages, such as schools and hospitals, with a focus on improving their efficiency. Furthermore, the project is set to create many job opportunities through factories working together with the government to ensure its implementation. The president vowed that the countryside would transform completely, stressing that a comprehensive modernization of facilities is required to keep pace with the development program that the country seeks to achieve. The head of state emphasized that all the projects implemented by the government are subject to careful studies, with the government working to achieve development and reform in all sectors. He stressed that population growth is still one of the most important challenges that Egypt faces. Regarding the development in the countryside, President Sisi noted that Egypt seeks to treat the wastewater, which is dumped into seas and lakes, with the treated water to be reused in new projects across Sinai. He added that a total of 100,000 fadans are ready for agricultural use in Sinai using treated water. He also noted that the government will complete the establishment of canals and stations to set up the needed irrigation and electricity networks. The head of state noted the government does not sell an illusion, rather it tries to be honest with its citizens. He also added that East Port Said development project, which was proposed 15 years ago but not implemented due to its high cost, will now come in a new light. Development of Egyptian villages takes place as part of a Decent Life presidential initiative, which has seen investments of 515 billion Egyptian pounds.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio to shed more light on this topic by Dr. Ayman Ibrahim Abdel Wahab, the Senior Advisor for the UN Environmental Affairs and Risk Management. Dr. Abdel Wahab, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me tonight.
It was a pleasure, sir. Dr. Abdel Wahab, first of all, now trying to develop the rural areas, the villages across Egypt, aiming to achieve such a feat in 3 years, 4,300 villages. That's a big number. Now, the villages and the people residing there, they constitute about 57% of the Egyptian population. How much of an achievement would it be to develop all these villages and rural areas within the Egyptian society and the Egyptian economy, and try to bridge the gap between the urban areas and the rural areas?
Well, actually, just before starting talking about this this huge project, it's well, actually, it's a program. It's not a project. It's a program because it's a multi-function projects and multi-area projects. So it's a program, and just we have to know what we are looking at. We're looking at more than half the population of Egypt, and this half population is residing in the rural area, in the countryside. The countryside provides food for the rest of the nation. So we're talking about the backbone of the nation, and they deserve, to be looked at, and they deserve to be provided with all these kind of services. As you mentioned, the time span allocated for this program is 3 years, which is a very, very ambition. It's a very ambition, and it's a very big challenge. But from what I seen and from what I heard, I think there is enough planning that took place before starting this big program. You know, from my background and my specialty, I've worked in the environmental area, in the development, and the complexity of this kind of program needs lots of organization, planning, communication, and coordination. So the achievement of this program is going to be a landmark in the Egyptian history.
Yes. Well, this program is really taking place within the framework of the Decent Life Initiative that has been, the country has been undergoing for a little over a while. Now, as you've mentioned, 3 years is a very ambitious sort of time frame. Now, the projected time frame was 15 years. Now, we're used to the government under President Al-Sisi of really achieving things in a very speedy, shorter time frame. Now, you've mentioned that you need a lot of communication, you need a lot of different sectors and coordination between different sectors and ministries. Now, how challenging do you feel it will be to try and squeeze what would happen in 15 years into 3 years and trying to achieve already by the end of 2021, which is only a few months away, to develop 375 villages?
Well, it's a big challenge. To be honest with you, it's a very big challenge. But from the very near future, we have seen very big projects that have been implemented in a very short time. So although it is challenging, but I think it is doable. But we have to bear in mind that we are talking about dealing with 14 ministries. Mm-hmm. We are dealing with you know, all the rural governors. We're dealing with local administrations. We are dealing with, we have to deal with NGOs. We have to engage so many stakeholders. Mm-hmm. And each stakeholder has to play his role. We have to include the local contractors. We have to include even the local workmanship. Mm-hmm. Which this is going to be an opportunity, actually. You know, it's not a challenge, it is an opportunity. Mm-hmm. But the challenge is how to coordinate between all these players. What kind of communication, how they are going to work in harmony. It needs lots of organization, very precise timing and time scheduling and supervision. Mm-hmm. So it is a big challenge, but I think it is doable.
Yes. Well, talking about the coordination, Doctor, now, it is a governmental program, and the government will be taking upon the responsibility, but as you've mentioned, we need the NGOs to play a part, we need the local contractors, we need the private sector as well to play a part. So what sort of ratios should we expect that would be undertaken by the government? How much would the private sector play a role in it? How much the NGOs, how big of a part can the NGOs play? Because maybe financially they wouldn't be as present as the private sector or the public sector as well. How are the dynamics between all these different sectors will meet up and coordinate their efforts to achieve such a feat?
This is very important and is a very crucial point. The government should play the role of a maestro. Mm-hmm. The government should be an implementer, but it should play the role of managing, putting down the plan, and facilitating for all these different parties to play their roles. Mm-hmm. In this way, the government will have the time to do its part, and will have the time to supervise the other players to do their part. And actually, the local entities are the most appropriate entities who know the needs, who know the nature of these localities, and on top of all this, they can do much work with less expenses. Because we are not going to look at transportation or moving around. They already are available in these localities. And they are going to employ the local residents. So we can cut cost tremendously by employing this kind of localization of implementation while having the government play its role. Yeah.
And what about the foreign investments, and what about the foreign expertise being involved in such a program? We hear about a lot of cooperation between the government and French firms and European companies working on developing rural areas here, using their expertise and their know-hows in the sanitation programs, the irrigation programs, the transportation networks as well. How much will the foreign expertise and involvement be involved within this national program?
Well, actually, there is no shame of utilizing the foreign expertise. In the past, there was some projects targeting the rural area, but it was just like a painkiller, thing. Just when we have a severe problem in some area, we do something about the potable water. When we have a problem about canals, we do some cleaning of the canals and so on. But this is the first time we have an integrated national program organized by the government. The government is the main player. And we are going to use the technical expertise of these foreign entities just for the very specialized areas, as you mentioned, in communication, in transportation. They have wide experience in this. So we are going to utilize, each entity has its unique niche, and we are going to use this and put it together. But the main challenge is how to put all these together and make it move in the same direction, and avoid any kind of contradictions between different entities. And here lies the big challenge that we have to face, and we have to focus on overcoming this problem.
Yes. Well, we're talking about over 3 years, that's 4,300 villages. And the government has allocated 515 billion pounds. That's almost £500 billion. Do you feel that this money will be enough financing, this financing will be enough to develop all these villages in 3 years with all the, because really you're restructuring and having a makeover for the style of life and the concept of the rural areas and the Egyptian village. Do you think that this money would be enough?
Well, actually, just we have to bear in mind that this money, it's a very big money, and we are talking about quarter the budget of for 2021. So it is big already. But we have to bear in mind that there is a selection criteria that was employed in this project. It's not covering, I would say, not covering 100%
yes.
of everything, but it is tackling the main issues, the main problems of the countryside. Like, for example, we have potable water covering a very big percentage of the countryside, but this caused another problem, which is the sanitary, the wastewater, where all this wastewater is going. It caused the problem of polluting the groundwater, for even polluting the agricultural lands and causing many health problems. So the wastewater is going to be one of the main issues that is going to be tackled. And it's going to cover most of these 4,500 mother villages with its 30,000 satellite villages. This is going to be, if this is the only achievement, it's a great achievement. But it's not going to be the only activities are going to be taken care of, but we are talking about even schools. New schools are going to be built. Density of classes are going to be, reduced. The health sector also is going to be covered. Clinics and health convoys and all these kind of different activities are going to be implemented in parallel. So although we are not going to cover 100%, but we are building the main skeleton of infrastructure and services that are going to provide the countryside with a decent life. And this is a very important point because we have been suffering from migration from the countryside to the city.
Yes.
We have to ask ourselves why. The answer is very simple. We did not have enough services. We did not have what we call the decent life. Potable water is not that clean. We don't have the sanitary system. We don't have enough health care. These points are going to be stressed on. And by providing the countryside with these infrastructure and services, then there is no reason for this kind of migration to the big cities like Cairo and Alexandria. And this is going to solve another problem because it's like a domino effect, When you correct one problem, it's going to correct another problem. So the problem of slums, we have a huge number of slums in Cairo, especially in Greater Cairo. If you reduce the amount of immigration from the countryside to Cairo, then you are going to eliminate the problem of slums. The government is taking very good care about slums now, and we have seen the very serious effort in tackling this problem, in eliminating the slums and building new residential areas, even with furnished apartments, and moving these people living in the slums into these new residential areas. So we are going to eliminate the slums. We are going to provide decent life in the countryside. We are going to reduce the immigration. And we are going to encourage the farmers to stay in the farms because they can survive without us. I mean, in the city.
Yes.
But we cannot survive without them because food is the essence of life.
Yes.
If we don't have food, we provide them with services as doctors, engineers, lawyers, but if we don't have food, how are we going to survive?
Yes.
So we have to value them and we have to respect them, and this is going to be realized already with this presidential initiative.
Yes. Well, how soon can we actually expect to solve such an immigration problem from the rural areas to the urban cities? Because it has been going on for decades that people travel from the villages going to the big cities seeking a better standard of life. Now, such an initiative, let's assume that we take 3 years to cover up 100% of all these villages. When should we expect to see a decrease in the number of immigration of citizens from the rural areas to the urban areas?
This is a very good point. Actually, it's not going to happen overnight because it has been like a tradition now, and it has become like the Egyptian dream, like the American dream. Everybody wants to go to America.
Yes.
It has been the Egyptian dream to move from the countryside to the big city, which is Cairo. We have to change this perspective, and this perspective has to be changed by awareness. And there should be a parallel activity or a parallel program that goes hand in hand with what's going on ground. Having awareness, informing people what the life will look like, and giving some successful stories, some good examples, so that when this program is finished, then the people know what they're expecting, and they are seeing this already happening on ground. And by changing this perspective in the new generations, then you will have this immigration. It's not going to stop, but it's going to be reduced. And I think it might, I'm not so ambitious to say that it can be reversed, but at least it can stop or be very minimal to the point that is not going to negatively impact the big cities like Cairo and Alexandria, for example.
Yes.
So we have to bear this in mind, and this might be one of the recommendations, to have a parallel program awareness, and also not only to change the image of the countryside, but also to ensure the sustainability of this program. It's not the end of it by implementing all these huge, enhancements of the life in the countryside, but we should ensure the sustainability, that this new wastewater system is going to stay as operational as it is. The new roads, the new access roads, the canals, the lining of the canals, the lining of the drains, the wastewater, the solid waste. The solid waste is a very big problem. It was not a problem in the past because the locals knew how to recycle and reuse naturally. But now the countryside is not like the countryside in the past. It is becoming more like cities than countryside. So we have to tackle the waste, the solid waste management problem, to ensure that this decent life is going to continue to be decent. This cleanliness is going to continue to be clean. All the equipment and the hardware that we provide to the countryside is going to be operated and maintained in the proper way.
Yes. Well, Dr. Abdel Wahab, you've mentioned the word sustainability, and Egypt is going through its own Egypt 2030 Sustainable Development Goal. Now, trying to develop these rural areas and these villages in a sustainable manner, so it's much more of a task than just developing it, just having a new road or building a new school, for instance. Does that mean that it's not just the government that needs to develop it, but you also need to develop a certain kind of culture within the citizens living in the rural areas and the villages to really adapt a new culture and frame of mind of sustainability?
Absolutely. Actually, it is a culture issue. If you look at any sector, even the health sector, we don't go to the doctor until we get sick. We don't repair our car until it breaks down and stops in the middle of the road. This has to stop. There is no room for this kind of cultures. We have to do what we call the sustainability.
Yes.
Sustainability means that when you build a project, you have to bear in mind that this project has to be maintained. There should be kind of periodical maintenance, preventive maintenance. There should be an allocation for budget from day one. And we have to bear in mind that each part of the project has a lifetime. There is no project that is going to live forever. We don't live forever. The pumps in the wastewater or the water treatment plant, it will not live forever. And so the building will not live forever. There should be some kind of maintenance. Otherwise, each part of these elements in any project is going to be deteriorated by time, and then it's going to collapse, or it's going to cease operation, it's going to stop from working, and so on. So in parallel, while we are planning for these projects, we have to put in mind that we have to allocate the resources, and we have to train the technicians, the engineers, who are going to be responsible for maintaining these elements of the project. You name it. Any kind of element of the project, it needs to be maintained, and there should be somebody who is responsible for this maintenance, and it's his job in this life to keep this element of the project working.
And do
this
we
is
have
sustainability.
it? And do we? I mean, you're saying that we have to plan this from day one. Do we have a plan to monitor and reevaluate and follow up and maintain all these developmental projects?
Well, I have been following, you know, all news about the presidential initiative, and it is there. I have seen this mentioned in many places, and I think it's taken into consideration. And I think it's the first time to have this from day one. And I'm very optimistic about how the countryside will look like 4 or 5 years from today. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before the 4 or 5 years from today, by the end of 2021, Egypt is planning to finish developing 375 villages already. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
The development of 375 villages around Egypt is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2021 as part of the implementation of the first and second phase of the national project for the development of Egyptian villages, A Decent Life. According to the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Hala Said, it was decided to complete the implementation of the national project for the Egyptian villages within 3 years instead of 15, in accordance with the directives of President Abdel al-Sisi. The minister explained the project aims to develop 4,300 villages within 3 years at a cost of 515 billion Egyptian pounds, noting that the project requires a large volume of investments as well as the solidarity of state institutions. Minister emphasized this project has not been implemented before in the world, clarifying that it aims to localize industry and use local equipment, in addition to provide job opportunities for citizens and improve their livelihood, describing it as a huge national project that represents a big leap in growth and the nature of life. Minister Said stated that the world is going through the coronavirus pandemic, which has caused a recession, but despite this, Egypt is witnessing a great challenge in developing these villages and other national projects. She pointed to the increase in the population of Egypt by about 20 million citizens during the past few years, stressing that the state has put in place a plan for the development of the Egyptian family and upgrading of the demographic characteristics. The government is fast-tracking a national project that has been too long in the coming, something to which the decline in the rural development indicators testify to. The national program for the development of Egyptian villages aims to improve the quality of life for all of the country's 4,741 villages, promising each its rightful share of infrastructural development, public services, and income-generating economic projects that will create job opportunities for their inhabitants.
President Abdel al-Sisi launched the initiative Decent Life in collaboration with the Ministry of Social Solidarity in March 2019.
مبادرة حياة كريمة هي محاولة مننا إن احنا نعالج مسائل مزمنة في مناطق هي الأكثر فقرا على الإطلاق في بلدنا مصر ونغيرها تماما.
The initiative covers 32 million people. The first phase includes 377 villages in 11 different governorates. It provides pure drinking water lines, sealing roofless buildings and houses, and donating blankets and furniture to at least 3 million people. It helps construct 15 schools in the villages, expand job opportunities to establish small businesses. The second phase targets the villages where poverty rates lie between 50 to 75%. Villages with 50% poverty or less will be targeted in the third phase. The Ministry of Social Solidarity provides 80% of the initiative's cost, while the remaining 20% will come from NGOs. The Egyptian citizen today is on top of the state's priorities. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Abdel Wahab. Now, sir, you've been talking about maintaining and observing and developing and reevaluating all the developments that would take place within these rural areas, which is an ongoing process. It really doesn't end, as you've mentioned. Now, how can we sustain such how does it work? Do we have a committee? Do we have an institution that is only responsible for that? Do we create some governmental organization to follow up on that? How does that, how could it work?
This is an excellent point. Actually, the government is going to play this role. The Prime Minister, the 14 ministers, and are going to take care of the planning and the implementation of this program. But at the same time, as you mentioned, that we're going to deal with an ongoing activity. Mm-hmm. The government doesn't have the time to take care of this all the time. Otherwise, it's going to stop doing any other things and focus on this only, which mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. What I think is necessary is to create a new ministry to be devoted for the countryside, mm-hmm. and to ensure the sustainability of the countryside, and to ensure that the standard of living that we are going to reach is going to be maintained or even enhanced more in future. Mm-hmm. A ministry, we can call it the local development, we can call it the rural development ministry, we can call it the Egyptian village ministry. I think the Egyptian village ministry would be a good naming for this. Mm-hmm. And this ministry will have its hands full. Mm-hmm. It's a full-time task that needs a very well organized entity to take care of this huge leap. Mm-hmm. What we are talking is, many people have been calling this program the program of the century, mm-hmm. because it's like the high dam, you know.
Yes. When
we were building the high dam, there was a ministry for high dam. Mm-hmm. So this is not less than the high dam. Mm-hmm. It is yes. a huge program that needs a huge entity to take care of it and to ensure that it's going to be moving in the right direction. There is one more mm-hmm. Point that I would like to mention, that the local development law, it was created 43 for 79, mm-hmm. right? We're
yes.
talking about 42 years. Mm-hmm. It has expired. As we mentioned, that anything had an expiration yes. date. Mm-hmm. This law is not suitable for what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The power and the authority of governors and local officials has to be increased. We have to give them some free hand mm-hmm. to enable them to deal with this very ambitious program. So the parliament should play its role to provide a new local mm-hmm. development law
yes.
That can go with the same pace with what's going on ground, because we're talking about somebody who is mm-hmm. barely walking and somebody who's running. Mm-hmm. So we have to give the governors more authority. They have to be more autonomous. I can't be, more ambitious and say that we have to have the federal system.
Yes.
But let's give them some more, power.
Well, Doctor, you've mentioned many things related or involving the sort of development process. You talked about sanitation, medical services, education, transportation, also maybe even developing factories, small and medium enterprises within these villages and areas. Now, what would you say is the biggest sort of challenge to develop within all these villages? Is it the irrigation system, the sanitation, the educational and medical services provided? We also have the issue of the Renaissance, Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, so everybody is concerned about the scarcity of the Nile water for the irrigation as well, and you've mentioned that these villages really depend mainly on agriculture. What would you say is the biggest challenge to develop within these rural areas?
Okay. All what you're talking about are challenges. We are talking about a bunch of challenges. Whenever you mention any activity, it is a challenge. But one of the very difficult challenges is to provide the land needed for the new infrastructure that are needed. Like if you want to build a wastewater treatment plant, where are you going to get the land for that? We're talking about agricultural land,
yes.
And even the laws might restrict you from doing that. So finding the land, number one, and going with the law. That's why I'm saying that we have to change the law of the local development. So this is a very big challenge to allocate the land. Number two, there should be an access roads. All these villages, there was no planning for the villages. In order to introduce these kind of new services, new technologies, new communication, you should have access roads within these villages. How are you going to construct these access roads? This is a very big challenge. Also, to introduce the new technologies, the digitalization of the countryside. We have to train people who are going to work with this new era of technology. This is a very big challenge. And on top of this, we have to make people believe that they own this, the ownership of this mega program. We have to make sure they believe in that and they feel that. It was brought to my attention that one lady donated half a dan from her land for this initiative. This is fantastic because it does give you impression that people start to believe that it is their project. It is their countryside. It is for the own good of their life and for their children's life and for grandchildren's lives. So we have to build on this. We have to build on this. This is very important, and it's a very important factor in the success of not only building this program, but maintaining this program and enhancing life in the countryside.
Yes. Well, as you've mentioned, it needs the amendments of the law, a political will to do that, and the sense of ownership. How can we actually raise the sense of ownership? The media can play its role, the marketing campaigns and the media campaigns can try and raise the awareness of the citizens within not just the rural areas, but the whole country. Can we also use that the same experience that we had in financing the expansion of the Suez Canal and issuing bonds, and people really felt that they are responsible and they're financing and that they have some sort of a stake or a say and a sense of ownership, as you've mentioned? Can we actually also have maybe not the same strategy, but something similar to that to raise the awareness and sense of ownership for the citizens?
Well, we have a very good and strong point in this program. This program is going to employ, as I mentioned in the beginning, the local contractors. These local contractors are going to employ workers from different kind of trades. These workers are going to come from the same community. So, but we have to emphasize on this, and we have to let people know that your youth are going to work in these projects. Your youth are going to enhance your community. So this is, you own this project. You own this life, and you are going to live this life. But this had to be mentioned. I mean, because if this just went in silence, projects are being implemented and all the rest, nobody will feel the magnitude and the change in their lives. This is going to be an income generating initiative. It's not only an infrastructure and service providing initiative. This is going to be transform the lives of people in the countryside. Just imagine that you are pumping 515 billion pounds in the countryside. Where are this money is going to go? They are going to go to the people who are working in this. It's not going to go to the pockets of the contractors only. Okay, part of it will go to the contractors. But who is going to implement? Carpenters, plumbers, electricians, ordinary laborers, suppliers of even food, you know.
Yes.
All these army of workers, all these activities on ground, they need food, they need services, they need everything. The local community is going to provide this.
Yes.
So this is going to let them feel the sense of ownership,
Yes.
which is a pivotal principle in this program and in the success of this program.
Dr. Abdel Wahab, now, actually the Prime Minister said that financing this program was not really the challenge as much as the simultaneous work within all the different sectors and factors for this development. Now, you're an environmental affairs expert and you're also a risk management expert. Now, you're saying that this program is as big maybe as the building the high dam. Now, what about the risks attributed or accompanying such a feat? What are the kind of risks that we might face in developing 4,300 villages across all the governorates in Egypt, 57% of the Egyptian population?
Okay. The risk is mainly in the sustainability of this program. The program will be implemented. The enhancement of the potable water system is going to be done. The wastewater network is going to be implemented. The pumping station is going to be done. The schools, the health sector, everything is going to be implemented. But the challenge is how to maintain these infrastructure, these facilities, these services, and how to change the mentality of the civil servant and make him believe that the place he is working in is, I don't want to say a holy place, but you know, he has to devote his time and his energy to serve the people. This needs education, training, awareness, sense of ownership. This is the big channel. The materialistic part of the program is the easiest part. But how to keep this going? How to keep the momentum? There is a very big momentum now. Everybody is putting tremendous effort in the same direction. So there is a momentum, there is a movement, okay? After this, what is going to keep this momentum going in the same direction? There should be a huge effort from different parts. That's why we go back that there should be a permanent entity who is responsible of this program, which is a ministry or whatever you call it for the future of this program.
And do you feel that because let's say that the government would actually have such a momentum, because it's the government's vision, it's the leadership's vision, but what about the private sector and the NGOs? What could actually also push them and keep the momentum and the motivation and that hunger to achieve that sort of development going? Because, as you've mentioned, it's an ongoing process. Is having a ministry enough? Should we have incentives for the private sector? The NGOs, how can we actually push everybody to be on that motivational and hungry wagon?
Well, actually, the biggest incentive is to get them involved from point one. By involving everybody and make them partners in this program, they are going to benefit from it. Financially, they're going to benefit. Especially, we are suffering from the COVID-19, side effects, unemployment, the slowdown of the economy. This is going to be a life-saving, program, because we are pumping huge, amount of money, and it's going to make everybody work in these programs. They're going to be partners. They are going to employ all the equipment, the workmanship they have, and everybody will flourish in this environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Abdel Wahab mentioned, now this is a very ambitious program, a very ambitious governmental initiative that not only needs the government and the private sector and the NGOs and the civil society to be backing it up, but also every Egyptian citizen needs to be doing their little bit to help push forward the development of over 57% of the Egyptian population, which will reflect on the Egyptian economy as a whole. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Ayman Ibrahim Abdel Wahab, the Senior Advisor for the UN Environmental Affairs and Risk Management. Dr. Abdel Wahab, it's a pleasure having you with us.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.